good to be back going down the road with you. I want to thank Al Carlson, former majority leader in the North Dakota House, for sitting in for me last time. I hope you had a wonderful Easter. We got a lot to cover today. We're going to get a chance to talk about the fire that's going on in Medora. I shouldn't say Medora, but the Badlands. This is a mess. The North Unit is burning up, and they're not able to put it out. And it's gotten bigger. Obviously, what they need is rain and less wind and easier terrain. Now, the last one, they're not going to be able to fix. You know that. And so we're going to talk about that at some point today. But Professor Jeff Bumgarner is somebody that we rely on for common sense. He really is. He teaches at North Dakota State University. He's in criminal justice and political science. So let's bring him in. Let's get a chance to talk to the professor. Jeff, good to have you back going down the road with us.
Thanks, Joel. Good to be here.
Want to talk to you about a couple of things. I don't know, is it Chauvin? Is it Chauvin? I mean, which pronunciation are you using?
I've seen both, and I think when I talk about him, I think I use Chauvin.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure if that's even correct, but that's what I've been landing on.
Let's use that today. That way, Chauvin is we'll know what each other are talking about. But that trial's going on, and it's a powder keg, Professor. It is. You know that. I know that. They've had a lot of witnesses come on for the prosecution, and yesterday was, the police chief for the city of Minneapolis, and to say that he was critical of Chauvin would be an understatement. I mean, what's your evaluation on the trial so far?
Well, it's been a really good case study on a good criminal prosecution and sort of all the different processes that take place in a prosecution. I think the judge is very mindful that a lot of people are watching, and in his rulings, he's also explaining himself and sort of educating the citizenry that is paying attention or watching this trial. I've certainly used segments of the trial so far in my criminal courts class. There's been a lot of good pieces to highlight. I think the case, so far has been, it's transitioned. I think the prosecution started off, especially in its opening statements, with something of an emotional appeal, and now it's really transitioned into more of a technical case. And the degree to which Chauvin did or did not follow policy and follow, proper use of force procedures and reasonable use of force procedures. Of course, right now, we're just hearing from the prosecution's witnesses. I suspect when it's Eric Nelson's turn, he's going to put his own expert witnesses up there to try to mitigate some of the damage that the prosecution's witnesses have done to Chauvin.
There's a couple things I noticed, and I did pick up on the fact that the judge at times is speaking to the audience of the trial, which I think is a good thing, because I think it will explain things in the end when this powder keg has the potential of going off. It's like buying insurance. I don't think it'll stop if a verdict comes in and individuals think that the verdict wasn't fair, but at least it'll give people like you and I and other individuals a chance to explain some of what we saw. But when you hear the police chief say, this isn't how we train them, this isn't what we ask of them, this isn't what we do, how effective do you think that is to the jury?
Oh, I think that's very effective. When the boss comes in, and if anyone can speak for the department, it is the chief of police. And so when he comes in and makes that statement, and he made it, definitively that this isn't how we do things. This isn't how we train. We don't teach our officers to do what Chauvin did. I think that does have an impact. Interestingly, today there's another use of force witness on the stand that is maybe slightly more helpful to Chauvin, although certainly helpful to the state as well. But is a little bit more equivocating in terms of when the use of force can be used and what kind of force, and how to interpret suspects that are saying, I can't be arrested, I don't want to be arrested, I have a medical issue, and things like that. The defense attorney on cross and recross got this witness to acknowledge that people lie to the cops, and even this witness had dealt with people that said, I can't breathe, or I can't go into that car, or here's why you got to do something different. And part of the assessment that the officer makes on the spot is this a valid complaint? Is this something I need to deal with or not? Or do I just need to get this person into custody? So I think that so far from what I've seen today, I think the defense is doing a better job on cross-examination than I think they did yesterday with those witnesses, who I think left a pretty strong impression in the minds of the jury that Chauvin's conduct was unacceptable.
Have you ever seen a case where this many prosecutors are involved in that prosecution? I mean, it's over double digits, individuals that are questioning these witnesses, and it seems as though, you know, they're picking. Well, obviously, they're picking certain individuals that would play into that witness. For example, and you're going to say, well, you know, Heitkamp's being a sexist, you folks that are watching us out there, but they got a woman with a kinder and a gentler voice to question the young individual that was a witness. I mean, that to me is a perfect example of some of what the prosecution's doing.
Right. Yeah. In answer to your first question, no, I've never seen this many prosecutors, this many lawyers assigned to a prosecution team, and this many from outside of the office that is conducting the prosecution. I don't know how that played with, you know, the career attorneys in the Attorney General's office or at the Hennepin County Attorney's office, but it is what it is. The state wants to get this one right, I guess, and so they're going to put all the resources they can and try to tailor the skill sets of the lawyers to the different types of witnesses. Having a female attorney question, say a juvenile, especially a juvenile female, you know, I think that kind of makes sense, and there's nothing nefarious about that. You know, we in law enforcement try to do that as well. We try to, you know, get the best interviewer for victims and witnesses that would make that person feel comfortable, and so that's, you know, that's totally fine if they have the resources to do that, and apparently they do.
Well, it's clear that they're putting all the chips in the middle of the table to make sure that they can get this conviction. I had a guest on my radio show, Jeff, that you know, he had experience in law enforcement, and he had experience in basically being an attorney in criminal trials. And he said, Joel, and he was very strong about this. He said, Joel, this is a bad cop. This is a terrible cop. This is a cop that shouldn't have been in uniform anymore. And this is a cop that will get convicted, but he won't get convicted of murder. He won't. And he went so far as to say, as God is my witness, he will not be convicted of murder. He's going to be convicted of manslaughter. And going into the trial, obviously you're teaching this. You're talking to adult students about this. What was your take going into the trial, and what was that conversation with them?
Well, we certainly talked about the trial. We talked about the charges. I've had students read the criminal complaints. We've watched the opening statements. I had students read the initial criminal complaint, which was then modified later on to include the second-degree murder charge and the third-degree murder charge. So, actually, I think the first complaint was third-degree and second-degree manslaughter, and then the second-degree murder charge was added later. But you know, we look at the elements of the crime. You know, we break down the offense. I'm probably in the same camp as your friend that would argue that I think some of those charges are probably a little bit of an overcharge, and the jury's going to see it that way. I've been predicting all along that Chauvin would get second-degree manslaughter. He'd be convicted of something, and probably that, and that the other three officers are likely to be acquitted altogether.
So when you sit there, and the other three officers, I don't think are on the radar of the individuals that are really watching this from a race standpoint. And I shouldn't speak on their behalf, but that's my sense. When you look at the argument that some made, and they made it on my radio show, that, listen, this man is big. He's really big. You got to take control. You're at risk, all of this. But you have him on the ground. You have him in handcuffs. I don't know how you make the case that kneeling on him for 9 minutes is something you had to do. Whether or not you think there's you know, just a complete disregard of life here. Whether or not there's a history here. Whatever reason he chose that would be wrong to kneel on that neck, I just can't figure out a way that you can make that case to the jury that you needed to do it.
Right. Well, from the moment that the video came out, last year, I was critical of the officers' tactics, Chauvin's tactics in particular. And, we've been learning about positional asphyxiation for 30 years. They trained us about it back in the 1990s, early 90s, when I went through the academy. So it's, officers should be aware of that and should probably, be attending to moving suspects off of that position, off of their stomach at the earliest opportunity. Having said that, there was a struggle, and we're focused on the 9 minutes, but probably about half of that 9 minutes, you still had somebody that was, arguably combative, was not in a frame of mind to go peacefully. You could see from some of the other video angle footage, there's still some kicking and having to hold the feet down by one of the other officers doing that for the first couple of minutes of that video. So what I think it's going to boil down to is that everyone will be able to agree that this went on too long, that Chauvin, should have moved the officer or moved Floyd. Even particularly when the other officers were asking, should we move them? We move this guy. That was an opportunity to reconsider, right? And kind of readjust your approach to dealing with this person now that he's in handcuffs and on the ground. But the question is going to be whether or not these policy violations or this, improper use of force, does it rise to the level of a criminal offense, as opposed to something that is, subject to disciplinary action for sure, but not necessarily a crime. And I'm interested to see Eric Nelson's closing arguments at the end of the day, especially after he has his own witnesses, if he's going to sort of emphasize that and give the jury an out that says, look, we can agree that mistakes were made. Officers are human and they make mistakes. They don't execute their training perfectly, especially when the training was given years ago. But they're doing the best they can, and mistakes were made, and this is unfortunate that this happened, but you don't send people to prison for that kind of mistake. It'll be interesting to see how that plays with the jury.
Before we move off this topic and move into another one, which is corporate bullying and whether or not what they're doing in Georgia is right or wrong, I do want to hit this with you because you understand it just as well as anybody I know. Will the judge let them, or will the prosecution just simply stand up and make sure everything is quiet for over 9 minutes so that jury can see how long 9 minutes can be?
That'd be a very interesting tactic, and I suspect the defense would object to that demonstration, but because the defense would say that that's 9 minutes without context. That's 9 minutes without a crowd talking and berating you. That's 9 minutes without 2 minutes of George Floyd kicking you. So I suspect they would object to that. My guess is the judge wouldn't permit it. But if the judge were to permit it, it would be a powerful demonstration, to be sure. Well,
there's no question about that. Professor Bumgarner, when we come back, we're going to get a chance to talk about corporate bullying. We're going to get a chance to talk about what's happening in Georgia with the All-Star game being pulled and whether that's right or wrong, right here as we go down the road.
Howdy folks, it's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boston breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha. The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness. During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark. Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close. Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship them to you free. This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit buynighthero.com. That's buynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
We hung on to him for this trip down the road. That's Professor Jeff Bumgarner. Professor Bumgarner, or Garner, I'm sorry, Jeff, we've talked a million times, and so
Yeah.
sorry that I mispronounced that. Criminal Justice and Political Science professor at NDSU. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Jeff, is what happened in Atlanta with the pulling of the All-Star game. There's moves and counter moves and everything that goes with that. Corporate bullying, that whole cancel culture that everybody's talking about. Give me your take on that. Give me your take on how this could spill over to other states as well.
Well, I think it could spill over to other states. You're seeing increasingly corporations willing to take, ostensibly political positions. No doubt positions that the leadership in those corporations think are the right positions. But the logical extension of this is that you're going to see, corporations perhaps with with pressure put on them by other forces, but you're going to see corporations potentially punish other states in other events. And so I'm just not sure this is sort of the precedent we want to establish by corporations. I don't know that we want them that engaged in politics. I mean, maybe if corporations are doing what you like or supporting your causes, then maybe it's okay for the time. But it's certainly imaginable that there'll be an occasion where corporations aren't making anyone happy with their decisions, and I don't know how that's good for corporations in my 401k plan. So
they were that's a good way of putting it. They were doing a side-by-side comparison of the election laws in New York State, which is certainly a blue state, versus Georgia, which is at the very least purple now. And the new law that was put in Georgia, you might want to make an argument. I think you could make a serious argument that it's more liberal in terms of how you're being able to vote than what they have in New York. I mean, did you see some of that comparison?
I have. I've seen those comparisons with different states. With New York's I saw, with Delaware's, somebody made the point of comparing it with Delaware. And of course, now people are looking at comparisons with Colorado, where the All-Star game is being moved to. So, and in all cases, I think the Georgia law, there might be things that some people didn't get that they want or whatever, but I think the Georgia law is pretty generous for getting people to the polls, so I don't think some of the initial misinformation, even the Washington Post said some of the information coming from the White House were, in the for Pinocchio category, that the law was misrepresented, and people I think are just reluctant to backtrack, and everyone's sort of all in now.
Well, and I started wondering, you're sitting there wondering, just like anybody would, about when they pulled the All-Star game out of Atlanta, why? Why, when you compare these states, why would you go to that? Why would you do that cancel culture that everybody's talking about? And I kept going back to, in my mind, the fact that this was a response to what many people across the nation think is the big lie, which is that the election was stolen, which is that what happened at Atlanta was nothing but a fraud. And so if the law is a reaction to that, there's bound to be a pushback from corporations or people that support corporations saying, look, I'm sick of being told this is a lie. Joe Biden won the election fair and square. And so I'm wondering if you believe that that could be some of what drove this legislation, and also what caused the pushback on it.
I'm sure some of it. I mean, I think there were calls on both sides for different reasons to have election reform in Georgia. I mean, Stacey Abrams has been calling for a new election law in Georgia, since she had lost the governor's race a couple of years prior. So both sides have wanted to see some changes. I think both sides got some things. I mean, there were, some of the Republican complaints were that there were during the presidential election is that because of COVID, there were a lot of sort of, from the hip kind of, adjustments made to election practices and so forth that maybe they didn't approve of, but actually some of those got codified into law now, and those are permanent fixtures of Georgia election law now. So I think the Democrats could look at this law and actually be quite happy with the ease with which one can vote early, the ease with which one can secure a mail-in ballot. There is the ID component, but a lot of states have ID laws, and Georgia's makes their ID process very easy. And if you're going to mail in your ballot, it makes it very easy. You just have to give you a couple of driver's license numbers or ID numbers, so last four of your SOCH. To put it on the ballot, you just have to circle the one that belongs to you. You don't have to make a photocopy of it or anything like that. So I mean, I think if people look at it, from what I've seen of the law, I think if people look at it, they'll find that it's actually very voter friendly. And there's no reason to think that there's going to be any voter suppression, notwithstanding Major League Baseball's reaction to it. And I think that's what I think has been especially troubling about this story is you start to see corporations making decisions to punish states, punish cities, it's not without precedent. I mean, I think North Carolina, if I recall, had some boycotts of them at one time because of, gender bathroom issues. I think a few years ago, you may recall, I think it was North Carolina that had some of that. So, I mean, but it always tends to be sort of in that direction. And I think there's a growing element of illiberalism on the left and in the Democratic Party that maybe doesn't represent the mainstream Democrats. I've heard a lot of Democrats have issue with Major League Baseball's decision. They don't want to go down that road either. But it's the culture and the times that we live in where this seems to be an appropriate response is to cancel cities, cancel communities if need be to make a political point.
I've met Stacey Abrams, and if there's a better political operative, I don't know who it is. And her model's being used all across the nation. I would also add this. She, as well as the two brand new Republican United States senators, urged Major League Baseball to not pull out of Georgia. They thought it was the wrong move to make. I thought one of the most brilliant moves in all of this was Marco Rubio from Florida telling the commissioner of baseball that if he's that adamant that baseball shouldn't be in Georgia for the All-Star game, then he should relinquish his membership to Augusta. That was a pretty good punch back, Jeff.
I think so, too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming down the road. I also think, just to close it out, that the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, probably when taking after Coca-Cola, shouldn't have a bottle of Coca-Cola on his desk hid behind the phone. Fair?
I would agree.
Okay.
I would agree.
We saw a lot of that. Have a great graduation and way to hang in there through a COVID year at NDSU. I know you guys still got the job done, so appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Joel.
When we come back, Lezlee Johnson is going to join us. She's the Forestry and Fire Management Team Leader for the North Dakota Forest Service. Obviously, you know what's going on in western North Dakota and actually across many parts of the state when it comes to fires. So we'll visit with Lezlee when we come back here down the road.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
Indoor football is back in Bismarck. Bucks football season is right around the corner. Grab a friend or family member for a night of action-packed, hard-hitting entertainment. The Bucks open at the Bismarck Event Center May 8th as they take on the Massachusetts Pirates. Catch the sweetest seats in the house right on the sidelines with VIP service at a Bucks turf table. Available now for single-game purchases. Secure your tickets today by calling 701-595-0771. Bucks football, half the field and double the fun.
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after-hours oasis of sanity. How can these people not see that they're just clowns?
We help simplify and educate you on things going on in the legislature and around the country.
Asking the hard-hitting questions.
But also having Fleece Stack and Sid and Marty Croft stuff, and we've talked about that sometimes. It's bad.
Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Welcome back to Down the Road. We obviously know it's playing out all over the news. We've had it on the radio. We've had it here on Beck TV. We've had it. We've seen it in the newspapers. We've seen it on TV. But Lezlee Johnson is the Forestry and Fire Management Team Leader in the North Dakota Forest Service, and we've asked her to come on and join us, and she was good enough to do that. Lezlee, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Happy to share with you guys today.
I've got to say this before we start. You have the coolest background of anybody we've ever had on.
Oh, wow. I was thinking I should have had some leaping flames or something, because that would be more seasonal. But no, I'm a forester, so this is trees, and this is North Dakota. It's not too far from Bismarck. Oh, that's close to Washburn.
Yeah. Well, Room Raider, you'd get a 10 out of 10 from me. Just so
thank you.
I want to talk to you about the fires in western North Dakota. An update on containment. What are you seeing?
Well, unfortunately, as of yesterday, the Medora grass fire was 100% contained around 1:15 Mountain Time, and the total declared was 2,276 acres. There's still folks out there mopping up, as you know. So that one's taken care of or behind us, behind most of us. As of 9:30 today, Mountain Time, firefighters reported about 45% containment and an estimate of 5,000 acres burned on the horse pasture fire. That's the one in the north unit of Teddy Roosevelt National Park and on the McKenzie district of the Little Missouri National Grassland. The cause of that fire is still under investigation. And winds last night were really light and expected to stay that way today. So the firefighters out there are optimistic that they'll be able to continue to make progress toward containing it. Right now, no structure damage has been reported, but there are still structures in the area. The CCC campground and some other infrastructure in the park are still at risk. And by that just means that the fire is still active and so they still could be in harm's way. There's some, the USDA Forest Services expanded a closure for the area, and that's for everyone's safety. And they've also set a no shooting zone, no fire, an emergency order for fire and shooting restrictions on all National Forest System lands in the western part of our state, and then also some in South Dakota until further use. That's campfires, smoking, discharging a firearm, air rifle, or gas gun. Those are all prohibited. So,
you said that there's no indication yet, or it's still being investigated in terms of how the fire started. Are you getting some inputs from neighbors, from ranchers, from people who might have some idea? In other words, are we ever going to know how this fire could have got started?
I don't know. I haven't heard any speculation, or I haven't heard folks, anyone say they had any more information than that. But it's when a fire is still ongoing, it's usually focus on getting it taken care of. One thing we do know is that 90% of the fires in North Dakota, 90% of the wildfires are caused by people. So odds are it was caused by people. That doesn't necessarily mean it was. There are other reasons. But I wouldn't want to speculate right now as to what that cause might have been.
I was driving down the road today and I saw somebody throw out a cigarette butt. I mean, I was just shaking my head. And granted, this was in eastern North Dakota, but we've had fires here. I mean, we've had fires here where it's obviously a little bit wetter and we have damper soil, but it just left me shaking my head. I mean, let me throw you a softball. Should people keep cigarette butts in the pickup truck?
No, my goodness. Well, first of all, I would really love for people to not smoke for their own health reasons. But yes, I've heard people say a cigarette can't start a forest fire, but I've investigated fires that have started from cigarettes. So I don't know where that comes from. So yes, any smoking materials, cigarettes, pipes, I don't care what it is, that's not a good idea. There's all kinds of ways that fires get started. Smoking is one, tossing the cigarette out of the car. Parking your car on dry grass and leaving it run, or have, the Cadillac converter. There, I knew I was going to say that. The catalytic converter under a car can get very hot and can start a fire. We always think, we grow up thinking, put our campfire out, make sure matches are out. But equipment use is, a dragging chain on the ground could start a fire. It's not just campfires. And then with most of our fires really come from, or a large number of them come from debris burning, and not necessarily being careless, but, you burn on a day when the conditions are good, and then your fire's out, and then a few days later the wind picks up like it did this past weekend and can reignite your fire, or fan those embers that you didn't even know were there still. So
yeah,
so,
I had that happen to a friend of mine. He had tried to burn some boxes and the fire got away. It did, and in the end, luckily that volunteer fire department was there, and it certainly wasn't anything major, and he almost had it contained himself. But that being said, it got away. He ended up having to call the volunteer fire department. Very small issue compared to the ones that you're faced with right now. Those rural firefighters out there fighting in the North Unit right now, and let's do this. Let's make sure people know all the tools that are being used out in the Theodore Roosevelt Park to try to put this fire out?
Well, everyone hears about the big UH-60 helicopters that came in. That's, I mean, you don't call them until you really, really need them, because that's expensive to get those birds in the air. So we had the UH-60 helicopters from the National Guard. We had the U.S. Forest Service called in some air tankers from South Dakota. Those are the trucks that come and drop a firefighting slurry on. And that's calling in the big guns too, because you've got, you know, a couple air tankers, plus they have to have a little plane fly in front of them, a spotter, to make sure it's okay, you know, for them to drop that slurry. And then we had, I don't even know how many engines we had. I know how many the North Dakota Forest Service out there. We had 4 engines, and at least one of those was from Colorado that we had. We have a compact with some of our other surrounding states, and we work back and forth. We send our equipment when they need it, and Colorado sent a couple engines and crews, so we had those out there. So we've got the engines, plus we've got people, you know, on the ground. We've got all of the local volunteer firefighters, and they're all tired right now. Not just the volunteer firefighters. I mean, not just the paid wildland firefighters, but the volunteer firefighters. They've been on for days. You know, fire season started in North Dakota on January 14th this year. You know, that was the first big fire that got away. That I don't recall all the details. I just had a call and seemed like the middle of the night that our guys were going. You know, it got away here and it went down into South Dakota. So that was our first day of fire season. And since then we've had reported, this is just reported fires, 174 fires, and they burnt 28,728 acres. I mean, I heard that. But the equipment, yeah, lots of people, lots of equipment, lots of water. The helicopters had to get water someplace, you know, to drop. So lots of agencies, lots of equipment, lots of wonderful communication, and really good cooperation on the ground. Everyone was just terrific, worked together. Just, I know it's planned, you know, but it's the way it's supposed to work. All those agencies and people working together, it was great.
You know, we talk about the rural firefighters. I'll use them as an example. You know, you've got individuals who, you know, they've got careers, they've got jobs, they've got families. I mean, it's spring planting season, it's spring calving season for many of them. And so you mentioned how tired they are. I can only imagine, but yet they've got lives of their own, and this doesn't end. I mean, it just doesn't end. What do you think happens as somebody who understands nature? What do you think happens after this is all done, when it's done? Do the Badlands come back better for it?
Well, we live in fire adapted. Most of the vegetation in North Dakota is adapted to fire. Not all of our forests are, of course, but the grasslands will come back. And that's one way to manage grasslands is through prescribed burning. Okay, but that's not, you don't just light a fire and run off and let it, you know, almost burn down a town, right? So the grasslands will come back. There's other vegetation that will have a lot harder time coming back, like the trees in the draws. That provides important wildlife habitat. It provides important windbreak values. You know, that provides a stream of benefits that nothing else in the Badlands can provide. Those will be gone for a long time. You know, those will take a while to come back. But the grassland will recover.
Last one, I promise. Before we got to go, the wildlife. What are you hearing? What are you seeing about the wildlife?
I don't know. I mean, I know like what's out there and how abundant it is, but I don't know. With the size of the burns, I'm not too awfully concerned. But what I would, you might want to talk to a wildlife biologist to find out if there was any critical habitat. I don't know of any critical habitat that was burned, but. So I can't really answer that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have even tried. I can't really answer that.
No, that's fair. I just know that the Forestry Service also knows how important that is to wildlife. And so that's why I asked you. And you're right. I should address that to somebody else. Lezlee, thank you. Thanks for coming down the road with us.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to get a chance to talk about the COVID vaccine and maybe see a little report that was on CNN. So stick around. More coming your way right here down the road.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Watch No Filter with me, Debbie Schlussel, for no-nonsense, unfiltered analysis of the news that matters to you. You'll see engaging guests.
It began a 444-day nightmare.
Entertaining analysis. And it has everything to do with something that happened in history. And honest movie reviews. Trust me, this is just atrocious. No Filter with Debbie, weeknights at 10 p.m. Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Well, we're getting there on this trip as we head down the road, but we're not quite to our destination yet. So let's take another or a couple more miles here and talk about the COVID vaccine and what we're trying to do as a nation, which is get to that herd immunity. You and I both know, and many of you have, as have I, been vaccinated. A lot of people that are watching this show right now have been vaccinated and know people who have been vaccinated. I know people as young as 22, 23 that have been vaccinated because it was open to them to do it, rather than see the vaccine go to waste. And we're seeing nationwide President Biden now saying that by the middle of April, he's going to open it up. And that was supposed to be May 1st. So he's going to open it up and give everyone the opportunity to be vaccinated. Get in line, drive through, make an appointment, whatever method you have to use to make sure that you get the vaccine. But here's the point I'm trying to get to. A lot of people are choosing not to get the vaccine. A lot of people are worried and concerned about the vaccine. And a lot of what they're concerned about has been proven not to be true. So that case is being made. Some people are sitting there in the kind of wait and see. Let's see how it affects High Camp and 6 months from now, maybe, I'll go ahead and do it. Well, we've heard a number of doctors speak to that. And here's one on CNN that I wanted you to get a chance to view.
I think that we do it a disservice when we think that it's just people trying to make a statement. It's people who may have some sort of underlying condition, some sort of health condition, they're just afraid. I mean, that's it. They're just afraid because it hasn't been around long. These vaccines are also new and it's also experimental. And they fear, well, maybe we'll learn something a year from now that will affect, my clotting disorder or affect, I hear women say, my fertility. I think that that's natural. But I don't know what you can say to people who are just sort of waiting for more information before they get vaccinated.
Yeah, I completely agree, Allison. I think we should not be demonizing people who are saying, I want to wait and see. I think we should understand. I understand why people want to wait and they want to understand more. Here's what I say to them. With every other vaccine that we have developed as humanity, almost every one of them, all the side effects that are important show up within the first few weeks and certainly by the first 2 months. So one of the reasons why many of us last fall were asking for the FDA to wait at least 2 months before making a decision about these vaccines, because if there were going to be problems, including fertility problems or other types of immune problems, that they would become apparent within 2 months of people getting vaccinated. That's what the FDA waited for. We didn't see those. Now we've got 104 million Americans have gotten a shot. We're not seeing complications in any meaningful numbers. And all of that, to me, is extremely reassuring. And I think that's the message we got to keep giving people.
165 million Americans. 165 million doses have been administered.
104 million people.
100 people, which is astounding. Again, I look at that number, my eyes pop open every time I see it.
And that's over 3 million a day now that are getting the vaccine. Now, the vaccine itself and finding the vaccine is not the problem. It's not the problem. Some of what the problem is are individuals who won't take the vaccine. So what do you do? I mean, what do you do to make sure that people do, if they have the opportunity, take the vaccine? Well, the answer is nothing. I mean, you can't make somebody take the vaccine. That isn't the country we are. I mean, you can give them incentives to do it. You can encourage them to do it because of the people in their lives, their grandparents, their parents, whatever that group of individuals they have that are the most susceptible to have COVID do the most damage to them. You can do all of that. The other thing you can do is try to make aware that some individuals are not going to get the same opportunities unless they have been vaccinated. There are already talks about that. I heard news today about a cruise line that is saying, you know what? We're going back open. We're going open to 50%. And then a month later, we're going to 75%. Then the month after that, we're going to go to 100%. And so they're getting open. They're going to get their ships back out on the ocean, and they're going to conduct business. Good. That's what we've been waiting for. That's why we've tried to be as cautious and careful as we can to stop the spread of COVID, to get the vaccine out there, to make sure it's developed enough to get out there. I mean, that's been the goal. But the individuals that are going to go on their cruise line aren't getting on there unless they have a vaccination card. I mean, they're not. They're not going to get on that cruise ship unless they have the vaccination card. I think there's going to be more of that. I do. I think that card that each one of us that have been vaccinated have, I think that's going to be part of your life for now. I think that you're going to be the example of, hey, I'm safe to be around. Now, is that right? Is that wrong? Is that wrong if you chose not to be vaccinated, that you can't get on that cruise ship? If that's the case, then, should you be allowed in the Minnesota Twins game? I mean, should you be allowed in that Vikings game this fall? I don't know. I know that people are going to make personal choices. In my line of work, you get to go into press boxes. You do. The Minnesota Twins opening day, I've been at for years. Absolutely at for years. Done a radio show at it. Met the personalities that are involved with the Twins. Visited with their broadcasting team on air. Done all of that. we weren't welcome in there this year. And they were right not to welcome us in there this year because just essential staff, they're going to have a game, they're going to have a broadcast, whether or not I bring back to my audience a flavor of what's going on. So that's a whole separation of what's happening when it comes to covering baseball. But my suspicion is that once that's all over, unless I can have my vaccination card handy, I'm still not going to get in. And it won't shock me if that's true. Now, the All-Star game coming out of Georgia. I encourage all of you to compare the laws in Georgia versus the laws in other places. To me, the biggest problem in election laws is the fact that people don't have enough polling places. Nobody should have to wait for hours upon hours in Florida to be able to vote. Nobody should have to do that same thing in Georgia. The whole election law that was passed in Georgia was based on the big lie that Donald Trump spread. And because of that, people are mad that there's new legislation coming forward because of it. Okay? That's what's got them mad. And so if you're the president or ex-president of the United States, Donald Trump, don't go about beating up these corporations because of a lie that you told. Don't do it. And for sure, don't beat up Coca-Cola when you got a bottle of Coke on your fake president's desk. Don't do that as well. I'll have some closing comments for you right here as we close out down the road.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues.
Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the most condescending, rude email you've ever received?
Well, welcome to
National
the third term of a certain president. I really believe that.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
You know, in my professional life, I've always liked action items. We can talk about concepts, we can talk about ideas, we can talk about all of that. But if you're going to get something done, I want to know what the action items are. What can you do for sure? What can you do for sure? What can you do to make sure you either solve the problem or recognize the problem, appreciate the problem, or make a positive impact? Let me give you some examples of things that I think that we can do. From today's show is a perfect example. Number one, you can thank a firefighter. You can. You can thank that rural firefighter. When you see him, buy him a beer. Buy him a Coke. I don't care what you buy him. I know this. But do something to make sure he or she know that they're appreciated. Because I think they've earned that. I think they really have earned that. The other thing that I think we can do is we can take the vaccine. Take the vaccine. It's been proven. The science is behind it. And the quicker we get to herd immunity, the quicker this nation gets back to where nobody's telling us that we can't open up. Nobody's telling us that we can only be half full. Nobody's telling artists that they can't perform concerts. We can go down the nobody's telling us all day long. But I think we need to get the vaccine. I think we owe it to each other to get the vaccine. You know, I really believe that we could be more careful when it comes to these fires. You know, you're farmers, you're ranchers, you're individuals with wide open spaces. So if you got a bunch of boxes in the shop, you know what? You go out back and you light them up. You light them on fire and you get them burnt up. I know that. I've been there, done it myself. But it's too dry right now. And most of the farmers don't want what could come along with that. I get it. I understand it. I drove by a pasture the other day. Every one of the fence posts were burnt up. So I understand it, but that didn't come from that individual's pasture. That came from somewhere else that got his fence post. So I think we have to take a real serious look at what we can do to stop some of these fires, to make sure that, yeah, we get them put out. But until we get those spring rains we're all hoping for, we're all praying for, that we just start using every bit of common sense the good Lord gave us. It's been fun going down the road with you folks. We'll see you next time right here as we head down the road.